All right. Welcome, everyone. Today is June 18th. This is the OSCAL-Compass community meeting. I'm going to go ahead and invite everyone to add their name to the attendee list for today's date in the notes. If there's any topics that you would like to discuss, please add them now. And while everyone adds their name, if there's any new members of the community or anyone who's joining for the first time, if you feel comfortable, please come off mute and introduce yourself and your interest in OSCAL-Compass.
Hi, my name is Ryan Ahern. It's my first time at the meeting. I work at GSA on a new team within Technology Transformation Service, and we're trying to use Compliance Trestle as a means for documenting SSPs moving forward.
Peter Burkholder, Ryan and I are on the same team now. We'll be kind of team adjacent going forward as I work on cloud.gov, trying to wrestle more OSCAL into how we work and hoping Compliance Trestle can be part of that. So thanks for holding this meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome, Ryan. Welcome, Peter. I think that we can go ahead and get started on the topics for today. So first, just some community updates for everyone. We have some new resources. We have a Google group and a shared calendar, and also a YouTube channel, which will hold all of the recordings of this community meeting and other OSCAL-Compass related meetings. With that, the meeting invite is going to change, and it will no longer be the same link, just for everyone's awareness. This will be transferred over after this meeting in the community repo, and I will send an update in Slack. I invite you to join our Google group, where you can get the meeting invite, and we will also be sharing updates there as well. I'll pause there for any questions, and then if there are none, we can get started on the next topic. All right, Donald, it looks like you have the next topic. You have the floor.
Hi, yeah, so I don't know how many people are involved in Zero Trust as one of the things that we might be trying to apply OSCAL controls to. But last week, or just over a week ago, the Department of Defense published a new document called Zero Trust Overlays, which thankfully references NIST 853 controls as a reference. And I've spent a bit of time extracting the mapping. So that's a PDF document. There's nothing machine readable in terms of content being produced. But the PDF document has lots of tables which have cross-reference matrices from the NIST controls to the DoD pillars of Zero Trust, which is a kind of useful data set. So I've spent a little bit of time in the last week just extracting from the PDF those tables of matrices and putting that back into the list, the published YAML file of NIST 853 controls as props annotations. And I don't know if that's like the best way to do that, and whether or not using props for cross references is what properties are intended for in OSCAL controls. So I really wanted to just have a brief discussion about that to see if using it in this way makes sense, if having an augmented NIST 853 set of controls, which have cross references to the DoD Zero Trust overlay mappings, is more broadly interesting to people. and how we might want to think about managing the cross-references between different groups of standards as they tend to reference the NIST baseline controls. So a bunch of stuff kind of packed into what I've just said there, but really just to try and trigger a bit of a discussion.
This seems, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure Vikas and Lou might be able to correct me. This seems related to the prototype that OSCAL has, that NIST has for OSCAL cross-control mappings. Though properties, it's my understanding properties can be used for anything. That's part of OSCAL's extension mechanism, so they can be used for whatever the author wants them to be used for. I think this might be a good use case for the cross-control mapping prototype, which I can link, but I would be interested if anyone else has the same understanding.
Right, Jen, right? So are you trying to basically map NIST 853 to another set of controls from another regulation? Is that the use case you're looking at, or something slightly different?
No, so last week, the Department of Defense published a document called Zero Trust Overlays, which is their mapping of NIST 853 controls to the Department of Defense's pillars of zero trust, with a lot of commentary about how to apply the controls. So they haven't come up with a specification with any new controls. They're reusing the NIST 853 controls. But for context, they've got their own specification of zero trust, which is, I can't remember what the specification is called. So this is a method of formalizing how they want to implement zero trust by reusing NIST 853 controls. So the way I see it is if we can cross-reference all of the 850 controls to the DoD zero trust overlays and the sections of that document, then we can essentially create we can computer generate essentially profiles or whatever you want to call them that contain relevant controls for specific pillars of zero trust in the Department of Defense's view of things. Does that make sense?
Right. So
my goal was to generate an augmented version of the NIST 853 controls.
So I think he's saying, I think Donald's saying he would like to be able to express what they have published in that PDF as a in OSCAL.
If it would help, I can share what I've done.
Exactly. Yeah, please.
Okay, so just bear with me a second. Right. I will end up just sharing my whole screen because that will be somewhat easier, I think. And apologies if everything appears too small for you. So first off, we've got the document, Department of Defense Zero Trust Overlays. I know it's dated February 24th, but I think it was announced just on Monday last week. And what I'm kind of talking about, a lot of what, in the intro, it talks about zero trust overlay. But if I just go for something like user pillar overlay, so they've got one of the pillars of zero trust is how they manage users and so on and so forth. And what they've got is tables like this, which you've got the detailed sections of the Department of Defense user pillar across the top, and you've got lists of specific NIST controls down the left-hand side. And I've written script to extract all of this mapping information so that I can, for example, take AC21 and augment it with currently properties to say that there is a DoD cross-reference mapping to 1.5 identity federation and user credentialing. And so somebody can use the controls, refer back to this document and see, right, I need to look into the detail of 1.5 user credentialing to see what the DoD says about how to apply that control. There's a lot more information in this document. It's like 400 odd pages long. And as you can see, once you get past that mapping table, there's a lot more details and discussion about how they consider the controls should be applied. But at a top level, all I'm trying to do, and I'll show you, I've actually got a repo here, I think, yeah. So under Red Hat ET, Zero Trust Catalog, I'll share the link to that in the chat. Sorry, it's difficult to get to the, when you're sharing the screen, how do you get the window back? Oh, it's there. Right, chat. Okay. So if I scroll down a bit, basically what I'm doing, you can see the text here for AC 2.1, which I was just giving the example of. It's got the title Automated System Account Management, and I've just given it two annotations, DoD Zero Trust Overlay, what appendix, and what pillar of Zero Trust it's applied to. So that I can then query the YAML or the JSON spec of the set of controls and generate a profile that contains everything relevant to the user pillar of the DoD's Zero Trust Overlay, if that makes sense. And if we want to change the format, that's fine, because I've basically got scripts in the repo that I just run against the PDF and it regenerates and re-augments the baseline NIST files. Which is why I thought it would be useful to say, is this the expected way to do it? But Jen, you're mentioning that there's actually a proposed extension, and maybe I should be looking at that just to see if that's a better way of doing it.
So yeah, currently this is the way you can do it. NIST is coming up with a new model called mapping model, where you can actually map controls between two different regulations. So for example, if your Zero Trust is represented in an OSCAL catalog format, where you have all these controls represented, right, that you were showing, then you can explicitly map that AC21 maps to whatever two controls you have, right? DoD Zero Trust Overlay and the other Appendix A and C, whatever the IDs are, right? You can actually map them and represent them over there, right? Using that mapping model explicitly.
Okay, yeah. So I should probably have a look at that mapping.
Yeah, but that's still under development, so it's still not released officially as part of the OSCAL standard. But yeah, that should be coming hopefully sometime this year, right? That's our expectation.
I mean, I suppose it would be useful then to try it out and see if that mapping spec is easy to work with for this and give them feedback.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. There might be some changes once the final version is released, because we are in discussion with the NIST team to have some changes based on our feedback that we are providing. So there might be some minor changes here and there, but overall the structure would look very similar that what they have currently.
And just a follow-on question then, where does that conversation with the NIST team happen? Is that a separate forum? Is that meetings arranged on a regular basis or just when needed?
So we had a series of meetings as an extension to this call that we are having. We had a separate meeting with the NIST team, and it was advertised in the CNCF channel for this Compass call, right? That whoever is interested, they can join those meetings. So we had 3-4 meetings. After that, we have stopped, and I believe we will have 1 or 2 more meetings towards the end of June or maybe early July, and we will share the details on the CNCF channels, and you're most welcome to join those meetings. But I can point you to an issue where we are capturing the discussions that is happening, and let me just send the link right now to you.
I've added it to the notes as well, because
okay, excellent. Okay, yeah. So that's the link to the issue where we are having the discussions. You can see the model. It's called the prototype mapping model on the OSCAL website, and maybe we can add that link also to the model directly.
Yeah, okay. I'll look out for those. And yeah, I'm kind of arriving late to the party here. I've just only got involved looking at OSCAL in the last 4 to 6 weeks, working on Zero Trust in the emerging tech team at Red Hat. So yeah, that would be, I'd quite like to attend those.
And let me add this link also to the prototype mapping model here. Oh, you've already added it. Okay, excellent. So you have the links there. So look at the schema, JSON schema for the model outline, and look at the discussions that are happening. And if you feel there are some requirements that you have which are not getting captured, then please propose those suggestions, right, as part of that issue, so that we can discuss those. And if those are reasonable, then those can be incorporated in the final model.
Sorry, so and I believe there's another couple of proposed extensions, isn't there? There's roles and responsibilities, and is there anything else that's proposed at the moment?
We were actually discussing few changes to the existing schema, minor changes here and there. Apart from roles and responsibilities are one thing, but there were a couple of additional changes. If you follow that discussion, you will get that. And I'll also be posting a sample content or JSON schema based on our suggestions, right? What needs to be there. So I'll be updating that issue with the sample also over there from our side that we discussed.
Okay. And so just for context for everybody, there's a couple of other things that I've kind of been working on in the background, which just worth sharing while I'm sharing the screen.
Sure.
One of those is that there's the cloud native controls, which I guess are published under CNCF, which I have gone through and kind of annotated from the perspective of tenets of zero trust from the NIST zero trust architecture. And I'm planning to, again, script up basically incorporating all the cross-references into the NIST 853 controls. So I would probably use, again, that cross-reference model that that's being proposed. And that would cross-reference because the cloud native controls do reference NIST controls where relevant. So I thought it'd be useful to try and generate a kind of canonical view of NIST controls with all the known cross-references.
Sure, definitely. Yeah. So the idea is, right, all the mappings, pairwise mapping, whether from NIST 853 to say PCI or whatever regulation, and from NIST 853 to HIPAA and so on, right? All those would can be captured as those mapping constructs, and then we can use that to maybe build the chain from PCI to NIST 853 to HIPAA. I can probably follow the chain and maybe do a PCI to HIPAA mapping or something like that, right? If you really want to do that.
Sure.
How accurate that would be, that may not be very clear, because these mappings are not always equivalent, right? When you try to map control from one regulation to other, it may be a subset or a superset kind of a mapping, right?
So agreed.
As you move the chain, right, you will have more what to say, indeterminism in that mapping, right? One level is directly given, right? But as you go to the next level, the amount of indeterminism would increase. So it has to be used very judiciously when you actually do multi-hop kind of a mapping transfer and so on.
Yeah, agreed. And actually, I'm not kind of aware of where I would get PCI DSS or HIPAA mappings to the NIST controls anyway. So somewhat selfishly, I'm only interested in zero, trying to share what I'm doing. That's a thing can be a benefit.
Sure. No, definitely. But yeah, as NIST is coming with this new model, definitely we should going forward use that model to represent the information that we have. Yes.
And I guess one other thing that I've not looked into at all, but the way I'm generating the augmented controls file, I'm just using PyYAML, which doesn't retain the original ordering of the NIST spec. Does Compliance Trestle do a better job of, if I want to augment the spec, load it, round trip it, will it regenerate the spec in the same form it originally had?
when you say same format, you're saying the same order of content or controls that it originally had?
Same order of fields under each YAML section, for example, or
So
JSON
the
section.
field order would be same, yes. So because
Yeah.
OSCAL prescribes a specific format, right? So you should have first ID and then title and then description and then properties and so on, right? So that ordering would be followed. But whether control AC1 would come first or AC2, that you will have to see, right? How what is the default ordering, or if we can change the ordering that is coming over there. Normally it follows a default alphabetical kind of an ordering, but there might be ways to override that mechanism, right? If you really want to order the content.
I think that part of it's okay because that's a list, and so the list is
Okay.
just processed in order.
Sure.
It's for me, it was the fields within each item.
Okay,
So
fields would definitely be ordered because that is coming from the schema.
Yeah,
So we'll
okay.
maintain the order in the schema. Yes, definitely.
Okay. Awesome, thank you. I will have a look at the proposed OSCAL extensions and see how they work for this use case.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Donald. That was a great conversation. And if you need to reach us in an async way, if you have questions between meetings, you can always reach out on Slack.
Sure, yeah, thank you.
Yep, no problem. We have 5 minutes left, so I just wanted to have open floor discussion. If there's any topics that anyone wants to bring up in the next 5 minutes, perhaps even proposals for next meeting's topics, floor is open. Yep, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just wondering if there was a plan, if this group is the right group to ask, for the next compliance trestle release. I had filed an issue against 3 that Lou fixed very quickly. Thank you, Lou. But it's sitting in develop so far. I was wondering if that could be released as a patch quickly, or if 3.2 was planned to be coming soon anyway.
So I'm going to go ahead and share the milestone link, and thank you for actually reminding me because that is on this list. So every other week we are doing milestone planning. The link here I have is to the 3.2.0 milestone, but we can release patches in between with bug fixes. So it might be worth, and Lou, I don't know if you have a better understanding of what is in develop right now. If it's just a bug fix, I'm sure we can do a 3.1.1 release.
Yeah, Ryan's problem was definitely a bug, and and he's wanting it, and so I'm in favor of pushing something out quickly. And the other things that are in develop are that I know of are relatively small and harmless. So I think we should move with speed to help out.
Sounds good. I'll add an action item for a release PR to be created against main then on our notes.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you so much. Very appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for bringing that topic up. If anyone wants to take a look at 3.2 and has any questions, or 3.2.0 and has any questions, please feel free to reach out. We also have recordings on how we're creating these releases available in our YouTube channel under the Compliance Trestle issue review.
So, Jen, just sadly, I'm not familiar with the fairly new process, but should we be creating a 3.1.x milestones and moving the things that are in there into that, or how is that going to work exactly?
Good question. I think and for anyone who doesn't have this context, we're still kind of getting our release planning process down. From my perspective, we only would need to plan for next features. So for the next minor release, and then any bug fixes in between probably would not need to go into a milestone, and we could just release as we need to.
Fair enough. And it's possible that some of the things that are in 3.1 are going to be or have been put into 3.2 here. So we probably have to make some small adjustments to this anyway.
Yep, definitely. All right, 1 minute left. Any more questions? All right, thank you so much for everyone participating. Once we have all of those new community resources, I will be sure to put a message out on Slack so everyone can join in on and enjoy our new resources. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
bye.
you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.